Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description.
In today's podcast, I wanted to talk about India and accounting. I mean, I know a lot of the listeners of this podcast are in India, but I just wanted to talk about it because the outsourcing of a lot of accounting tasks are going to India, and there's just like a lot of outsourcing in general in the Big Four accounting firms because of cost and value. And there's a lot of, just service arbitrage in general because of just prices of the Big Four accounting firms and then price pressure from clients. But I think there's going to be a reckoning coming for the Big Four accounting firms and I think Big Four accountants, because just over my career, there's been an increase of skill in India and other countries where they're able to do the tasks at a very high level that associates and senior associates and even some managers used to be able to do. And I mean, it's been a strategic decision of the Big Four accounting firms to do this as sort of a cost arbitrage, but they also now have the potential to just change the way that they make their revenue. It could decrease their revenue. It could also decrease the number of partners in other countries. And I think this is only going to increase as the work from home model continues to increase, because it used to be, if you're in the US or another country, the client used to want you to come in, but now the clients don't demand that, so they're going to be less hesitant to use outsourcing model. But I guess also some clients don't let you use outsourcing contractors or just outsource to another country because they don't want their data to flow to another country because there's multiple layers of security and things can be compromised. Especially, that happens to the Big Four accounting firms all the time, right? Where people try and get within the Big Four accounting firms and steal the data of the world's largest companies, because the accounting firms have all the largest companies' data there. So it's just one reason that some very large companies don't let the Big Four accounting firms use contractors from other countries like India. But I think India has the potential to be a very strong accounting country. And I know Praneet Ranjan of Deloitte has seen this. He's tried to get a lot of help for India during the COVID-19 crisis, and he also talks about how India is going to rebound very well from COVID-19. And I think it's true for accounting, and I think it has a potential to concentrate a lot of the world's accounting talent to India. But I think it's just in general, not just accounting, but services. As more services are outsourced, which you're outsourcing in the short term, which is cost, you're also going to be outsourcing in the long term in revenue, because you're essentially establishing them as one of the biggest accounting powers in the world. And you have to be addressing it as you go along, because it's going to affect your revenue model in the higher cost countries. And I think all this does is speak to the Big Four accounting firms model and the need for improvement, because they were not providing value to the clients. And a lot of clients saw this, and so they put fee pressure on the Big Four accounting firms. The Big Four accounting firms were like, oh, we're really smart. All these other companies are outsourcing to decrease their costs, so we'll do the same, and we'll try to charge the client the same amount of price that we used to. But then the clients caught on, so you had to disclose that, and the engagement and the engagement documents. And then on top of that, some clients don't let you, like I said before. So the clients figured out they're outsourcing. You have to disclose that, and you can't charge the same price as a U.S. associate as you would for an associate in India. So they figured that game out. And then now the clients can put pressure on that revenue as well, on that revenue and that expense. And so I think what the big four accounting firms are doing is they just keep on chasing a way to lower expense when they should be. And I've said this throughout my career, throughout this podcast, is provide more value. And that's how you're going to increase revenue. You're not going to increase revenue by always trying to drive costs down. And the clients are always going to find that. And so what they need to do is they need to push back on their clients. It doesn't matter what country they're charging out of. I could care less. But they need to increase the value they provide to their clients. Otherwise, they're going to be chasing the lower cost country, but they're also going to be outsourcing their jobs to that country. So partners in the US are going to be outsourcing the future jobs and lowering their pensions potentially if they move the revenue overseas. And so I think that's just something to think about. And I think it's something to think about your career as well, because what I've seen is as things get outsourced is that the associates aren't learning as much, the senior associates aren't learning as much. And you have to really specialize. You have to take ownership of your career. And I say that all the time, but it's very important because you don't want to be one of these people that's doing the basics. I mean, if that's what you're in this job for, then fine, but don't expect to move up. Don't expect to earn a whole lot of money. Expect to be okay, but even when you go in industry, because a lot of people escape the accounting firms to just get a calmer life in industry, but industry is doing the same thing. They're trying to lower cost and they're outsourcing as well. So that's just something to think about. And if people are going to make more money in these countries like India from a good job like accounting, they're going to work harder than people in these higher paying countries like the US and the UK and Australia. So that's just something to keep in mind. Something that the big four accounting firms and you, as you move into leadership positions, need to take into consideration. And I think anybody working any type of accounting job needs to consider providing value. Don't consider the shortcuts, because the long tail of those shortcuts is going to come back and bite you. You need to provide value. You need to do it in the most ethical way possible. And that's really where all the problems for the big four accounting firms come from. Looking short term and not being ethical. And as long as you pursue that path, you're going to set yourself up and the accounting firms for the greatest possible future and career. So that's the update for today. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast to get future updates and support us through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes to this podcast. We recently had a supporter donate and we're very thankful for that. So thanks for listening.